Hi, welcome all. It is the 19th of April, 2026, and this is our Poetry and Prose meeting, open mic. So we're looking forward to hearing everyone's new work. And I am Gersha. I will be chairing for the meeting. Unless someone else wants to, then I'll willingly hand the duties over. We're going to start today with Heather. She has a new piece for us. Heather, the floor is all yours.
Thank you, Gersha. Thank you. Well, the name of my piece is Heavenly Protection or Obia. I guess we have to make up our minds after what it is. Here we go. One set of rude boys only hanging out by the inner city park down by Woodford Square every night. Gang leader Junior with cohorts Boise and Rafi with their hangers on make up the group. The boys and them share the corner of the square with an old beggar they named Grandpa. They didn't bother him and he didn't bother them. In fact, every once in a while, when one of the boys finds some food, they give a crust or two to the old man. It was a mark of respect. After all, he's one of we, only a few generations older, and he here on the corner we lineman on donkey years now, boys, he said. Nobody could prove one thing, but a few girls got harassed walking through the park as the boys and them using by the boys and them using it as a shortcut to go by the taxi stand to get a car to go home from work in the evening. It start out with "Doo darling, how you looking so nice?" Then ramp up to real vulgar utterances like comments on the shape and size of their bamsi and bosoms. Things went up a notch when later one night a girl got raped just after sundown, although nobody could prove by who. It wasn't one of we, the boys say, but nobody believed them. Next thing, somebody go end up dead, people said, warning females of all ages to stay the hell away from that damn place. The taxi man and them were vexed as it meant less fares for them. What the hell, they said, how we gonna make money? As the girls now got rides from gallant male co-workers or doubling up with other girls from surrounding offices to get a free ride home at most, or at least a ride to a better taxi stand some distance away, free from the taunts of the gang of rude boys by Woodford Square, who hung out there rain or shine as if they were hired to stand guard. You could bet your bottom dollar they were never able to give a real paying job that kind of loyalty and vigilance. Well, a girl named Sandra was working for some lawyer office upstairs in Salvatore building. She always left work in daylight in the company of the other girls in the office around 4:30 to go by the taxi stand and start her journey home. Safety in numbers was their strategy. Then one day, the boss, a tone-deaf man who couldn't care less what going on in the world, makes she stay late to finish up some deadline work he himself delayed. Sandra feels she had no excuse to refuse, as she always feels she was easily replaceable. Yeah, coming with me? Her co-worker Janice asked she. No, girl, Mr. Lalman asked me to finish up some work. I go have to stay late, Sandra said. Well, all right, but make him drop you home, eh? Don't try and take any taxi by the square, especially if it get dark. You know the danger. Sandra was just getting brave enough to ask for a drive home when Mr. Lalman say, I'll leave in you to finish up, girl. Lock up the door and thing when you're done. And with that, he gone, flying to a quick sugar rush by his side piece, getting a little spice before he have to go home to the battle axe wife. Poor Sandra buckled down to work. Thank God she had half a sandwich left over from lunch. Methodical to a fault, she lined up all the data and filed up all the records, working late into the evening. It was 9 o'clock when she got done. She locked up the office and walked down the long hallway to the elevator. She feel like she hearing footsteps echoing somewhere in the empty building. A wave of panic and fear overtakes she quick, especially as she was thinking how she go across the square to go by the taxi stand in the dark. In the foyer, she put up the janitor, an old man named Mr. Troy. Oh, ho, it was you I hear moving around, Sandra say. Yes, he answered. In the empty building, the noise is carried, so you don't even know where it's coming from. Well, I going now, said Sandra. Mr. Lalman did ask me to stay late. Go brave and be safe, eh, Mr. Troy say, and be careful if you're going near the square. You know how them boys and them does be rude. Sandra left the building and walked into the night. Downtown Port of Spain is a different place when the sun go down. In the day, office workers going to and from work Shoppers looking for bargains, school children going to and from the train station to get transportation from the outer reaches of the city, and the ever present beggars on the sidewalk make for a mashup of humanity choking up the streets. After dark, a whole new rhythm invaded the place. There were ladies of the night making deals with prospective clients, vendors selling rose corn on coal pots, fried chana and brown paper cones, roti stalls selling food, people flocking to the nightclubs and rum shops, and vagrants looking for a nook to sleep, wrapped up in dirty blankets in closed-up shop entrances. Sandra picked her way up Frederick Street, dodging questionable characters and trying to look inconspicuous. Some fresh men took her for a prostitute, propositioning her as she walked briskly past them and cussing her when she ignored their crude suggestions. Like you feel you too good for we, some taunted as she scurried along toward the square to hopefully get a taxi still available at this late hour. As she approached the square, a lightning bolt of pure fear shot through her. She paused at the gates and breathed deeply. At the far corner, just where she had to pass, were the tough looking youths hovering menacingly, smoking ganja and drinking from rum bottles. She could see them through the haze of the street light. Oh God, oh, save me from these hooligans, no Lord. Send your archangels, Michael and Raphael, to walk by me, she said in a low undertone, barely audible, repeating it over and over like a mantra as she walked along the path toward the gang. As she neared them, they seemed to disperse and move away, glancing over their shoulders with shifty eyes. It looked like they either did not notice her or they decided not to engage her. Maybe they thought she was a setup planted by the police to catch them out. She didn't know. At last, she reached the other side, caught the last taxi at the stand, and breathed a deep sigh of relief as the taxi sped away to safety. Gang leader Junior was just coming up the road to join up with the fellas and them when he see them turn away from the girl. What happened to all your? He inquired. Like all your afraid she? You could at least grab she bag. Maybe she had some money or food, and you know I always hungry. But more than that is letting people know we in charge here, man. This is our ground now. We ain't have a death wish, man, Boise answer. We see she coming down the path through the square, but she had two big, ugly Rasta type fellas on each side of she for protection. We ain't want to tangle up with that. You know, my mommy always say, no trouble until trouble you. Man, don't lie, Junior said. I see she from a distance and she was alone. She ain't had nobody with she. I see all you slacking off. Is we who is the trouble here? The rest of the fellas vouched for Boise's story. Is then the fellas realized that some kind of spiritual powers was on her side. What they did not know was if the powers were good or evil. What kind of obia she work on all your Junior say, citing the black arts for the apparent apparition of the two Rasta walking by the girl. Maybe she was a Suquia or a Lady Lagahu, Rafik say, referencing the Trini folklore all that we grew up with. Anybody check to see if she had cow foot, referring to La Jablas? Maybe it was none of that. Maybe it was God and she said the old beggar speak up and say. He had seen this all happen. Junior feel a shiver up his spine. Whatever spirit was working its spell, he started to feel out of control. And you know how bad John liked to feel they in control. Things getting too hot for we by here, man. If it's one thing I want to tangle up with is Obia. I ain't in for all this spirit thing now. I is strictly a flesh and blood man. It's time for we to move on from here, Junior say. From now on, let we meet up down by South Quave and Lime. And that is how the inner city park got rid of the menace of the rude boys gang, making it safe again for people in downtown Port of Spain to enjoy. The end.
Thank you, Heather. I enjoyed it, especially the references for the other folklore. Any comments?
And I when last to come Trinidad, girl.
Let's come every day in my head.
It looks so. It looks so. Or maybe I don't know you, but be flying on your broom.
Exactly. That's a good one.
Because the play are going to see this evening it deals with a lot of folklore and all that. So I just thought that was appropriate that you did that story today.
Well,
Congratulations.
somebody had told me the story about this girl that when people looked at her, they saw her with two protectors, but she was actually alone. And I had to Google it and ask AI to find out if this was a story that somebody else had written, because the person that told me the story couldn't remember where they heard it from. So I say, look, I didn't want to plagiarize anybody.
Mm.
So AI didn't come up with any author, any other author. So I figured if I put it in a Trini setting, at least I could claim that it's mine.
Well, girl, I too old. I don't know nothing about AI, and I don't want to know anything. A funny thing, you was talking about ladies of the night, and Tony Dial wrote a piece last week. Yeah, and in the country they used to call these girls wabin. I don't know
Yeah,
if anybody could remember that term.
I remember
yeah,
that.
I remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If it,
Well,
if they tell
my
you it's a
next story,
wabin,
I will add that to my next story.
they're always ready to give some ideas. Yeah, because there used to be somebody in our village. So every evening, in the evening, she used to dress up real nice and makeup and thing. I thought she was very pretty. I was about 8 or 9, and according to the talk in the village, he used to go down to the San Fernando Wharf and work and come back in the morning. And they used to say she's a wabin. So I was thinking, that a freshwater lagoon fish going on by the sea.
So that's for the next story. When they move, they'll meet up another another match.
We'll meet up the Wabi now my South Quay.
Yeah.
Is it pronounced South Quay or South Key? Anybody knows?
He, I think.
South Key, South Key.
Okay.
Okay, okay.
But Heather, they used to have a website called Urban Legends where you could
Yeah.
look stuff up and they would tell you like a
Oh,
little bit
good
of the
idea. Yeah.
origin and stuff of it. But I don't think they have anything local on it. But that um protector, unseen protector legend is quite common, at least in the US.
Mhm.
I heard stories about like a girl went to a party and she got drunk, so she went upstairs to lay down. A guy came in, with ill intentions, and he saw a figure of a man sitting next to her. And it turned out, of course, that she was protected by an angel, you know,
Mhm.
and that's why you should pray because God always protects you. So it comes in different forms,
Yeah.
but I don't think it's plagiarism. I think it's too common of a trope
Yeah.
to be considered.
Well, and it's
plagiarism.
in my story in particular is couched in a lot of
Yeah.
Trinisms, and even the place, Woodford Square.
Hmm.
As schoolgirls, we used to run away from school and break beach and go downtown and hang out by Woodford Square.
Yeah. Yeah. But they said a lot of writing kind of takes takes things from other places. So like even George R. R. Martin, the Lord of the Rings, no, not Lord
Mhm.
of the Rings, the Game of Thrones was written from the War of the Roses. So
Yes.
he
Yeah.
kind of used what happened there and adapted it in his own fictional world. So I liked it though. I liked it. The only thing, the explanation. I know why we have to put the explanations for our when we reference local folklore and stuff, but I don't know. To me, it always takes me out of the story a little bit.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah, I suppose I didn't think of it in that way. Yeah. I mean, I
But
always like to throw in like a Trini saying, but that's only because
no, not the
being
funny saying, but like the explanation of the folklore of like what it is. Like
okay.
Trini don't know what a Ladja Bless is, but like if
Yeah.
Yeah. So for me, it kind of takes me out a little bit, but I know it's a
Okay,
necessary
well,
evil.
that's good to know because it was my first attempt after the recovery from my operation. So I kind of was questioning myself if I still have it or not, you know.
You do have it. Oh, it has not gone anywhere, Heather. You do have it because I really enjoyed the story. So you certainly do. And I'll take another comment if anyone else wants to comment.
Many people at the point of death, approaching death, tend to see apparitions of deceased family. It's not really considered something supernatural. It can be reproduced if you limit the amount of oxygen somebody is breathing. You can induce those same things. So it looks like a function of the brain, but it makes for a good story. Some people, minutes or hours before they die, they see Uncle Harry who died 20 years ago, and say, "Why is he looking at me like that?" But again, you can induce that in a healthy person by limiting their oxygen flow.
That's interesting. There was a story in the news where a guy, and I'm just, because inspiration comes from everywhere. But if you read our local news, I think he was intoxicated and he was napping on this, I don't know what to call it, an edge, like Mozilla, help me out here, the wall, the retaining wall. So it's just like a little edge where most people would sit but he
Yeah,
fell over.
yeah, I saw that. It's lying down on the curb and he fell down on 12 feet and they say he died.
Yeah, and he passed away.
Okay.
So a little bit of local news in between. I'm gonna move on to the next reader. And Cynthia, are you reading today?
She has a mic off.
Oh, yes, I just had to switch it on. No, unfortunately, I am preoccupied with very mundane matters. So creativity is zero at the moment. I am battling up, fighting up.
Listen, I was once at an open mic where someone read a story about going to buy something on their lunch hour, and the clerk moving quite slowly, and they were in a rush, and the entire story was told from that person's point of view. So sometimes the mundane can inspire. All right, so I'm gonna go to Frank. Frank,
Yeah.
you have anything to read for us
Well,
today?
I just wanted to introduce my book has recently been published. It is my first attempt at nonfiction, and it was published by Middle Road Publishers of Brampton, Ontario. In this video here, it's showing up as the writing is reversed. Can you read it? It says,
Yeah, we can see it well.
is it right-sided?
It's right-sided, yeah.
Oh, so it's called the cervical sign. And about in 2006, I did a research project with the University of Western Ontario, where I tried to show an idea of mine, which is a 3-second method or technique of screening patients for depressive symptoms. And in the introduction of the book, I explained that the English word depression or depressive symptoms and the medical term depression are two separate things, two different things. And in the English sense, depression is when we all feel depressed at some time or another. We feel down. for whatever reason, but that isn't a medical issue. But a medical issue of depression consists of multiple physical and emotional symptoms that are specific to this diagnosis called depression. So people who are not too fully knowledgeable about the medical aspect, very educated people. In fact, Jimmy Carter once asked in an interview, said they were talking about depression, and he said quite innocently, well, why can't they just snap out of it? Well, medical depression is actually a physical disease. The same way in diabetes, where you have the derangement and the derangement of chemical reactions within the pancreas that produces diabetes, you have a derangement of chemical reactions within parts of the brain. One part is called the hippocampus, another part is called the amygdala. And when those chemical reactions are deranged in a way, it produces the medical diagnosis called depression. So it's as physical a disease as diabetes is, and therefore you really can't snap out of diabetes, the same way you cannot snap out of depression. So it's now you can have depressive symptoms, but not enough to call it depression. According to the Diagnosis and Statistical Manual in the States, if you have 5 symptoms or less, it could be referred to as pre-depression, but not depression. And quite often people are not aware that they have these signs and symptoms. And quite about one study was done in the early 2000s that showed that about between 29 to 56% of the people presenting in an office, say a family physician's office, will have depressive symptoms. Many of them may actually have more than 5 symptoms to consider it a clinical diagnosis of depression. And depression doesn't necessarily mean you're feeling sad. In fact, quite often you might find somebody who committed suicide as a result of depression. And people might say, oh, geez, he was always such a happy-go-lucky guy. So medical depression doesn't necessarily mean feeling sad or moping around the house every day because of the multitude of other physical and emotional symptoms. So my book is about, if you go to the doctor today and they want to screen somebody for depressive symptoms, it's about a 40-minute procedure. It involves interview, it involves filling out a very lengthy questionnaire, and it might take about 40 minutes. And it takes up the nurse of the office that time to process everything. So over the years, I've come up with a physical sign that within 3 seconds, one can screen for depressive symptoms, as opposed to 40 minutes. It's a novel sign. It's never been described before. There was one physical sign called the omega sign. Now, there's some, and this goes all the way back to Charles Darwin time. They propose people, they might have some people will make their forehead and you see this crease here. It goes in the shape of an omega, the Greek letter omega, and it's supposed to correlate with people with depressive symptoms, but it's not a very good correlation. So I came up with a sign called the cervical sign, and I didn't think of this before, but there are 2 places in the body that we use the word cervical. One is the gynecological cervix or cervical, and the other is the vertebral bodies in your neck. They call it cervical vertebra. And until I went to a lecture the other day and I was describing this book to an older lady sitting beside me, and she started to laugh. And she was laughing because the first thing she thought about was the gynecological cervix. And I thought, I didn't think about that. But there are 7 vertebra starting from the base of the neck, called the cervical vertebra, spelled the same way. And then after the 7th cervical vertebra, you have the thoracic vertebra. And then lower down in the back, you call it the lumbar vertebra. So what I've discovered over the years is if you press on the 7th cervical spine very firmly, and it's painful, it correlates with people with depressive symptoms. Now, you can't do this to yourself. It's like trying to tickle yourself. It's not, you're going to get false positive and false negative results. So it has to be done by someone who is schooled in the actual technique on how to do it. So in 2006, I did this study where we compared my physical sign, that is pressing on the 7th cervical spine, and the 40-minute screening for depressive symptoms. And what we found was that there was a statistically significant correlation between my sign and that 40-minute procedure. And my sign takes 3 seconds. Now, this is a very novel idea in medicine. Initially, in the medical scientific world, when you come up with a novel idea, even though it's been studied with a scientific experiment and so on, it's people take it with a grain of salt. As an example, penicillin was the first antibiotic. Before penicillin, there was no such thing as an antibiotic. So people died from simple things like boils, and you had an infection in your big toe that's not going away. The treatment was to cut the leg off from below the knee, amputation. Well, penicillin sat on the shelf, the so-called scientific shelf, for 10 years before it was considered, they might say, oh, there's something called penicillin, this crackpot scientist came up with. Let's give it a try. But so it sat on the shelf for 10 years before it was taken seriously. I'm not saying my thing is as important as penicillin, but what I'm saying is that because it's a novel idea, I fully expect that it'll be sort of questioned with a raised eyebrow until maybe enough people try it and realize that it actually can pick up people with depressive symptoms. The advantage with this physical sign is that not only does it pick up people with mild, moderate, and severe depression, but it picks up people with pre-depression, people who are not medically depressed, but may have between 2 and 5 symptoms, depressive symptoms. And what does that do? A lot of times people will come into the office with a physical complaint, say back pain, low back pain. And if they have depressive symptoms concomitantly, that back pain will be amplified. And you treat, let's say it's muscle spasm, and you treat the muscle spasm and the pain goes down. It doesn't go away 100% until it's discovered that there is an element of depressive symptoms present. And until that is treated, then the person will fully recover. Or if somebody has pain of any kind, say with a recent knee replacement like Heather, you may find that the pain would be exaggerated. It's not in the head. It's not imagined pain. The pain actually is real until depressive symptoms are treated. So that's the importance of this. And so you'll find many so-called normal people like you and I will present in the doctor's office, and we may have a few depressive symptoms and not realize it. Or we may present with major depression and not realize it. So another study was done which showed that about 90% of people with physical complaints coming from depression do not complain of depression. They complain of the physical complaint, whether it's a lack of sleep, or whether it's pain, or whether it's constipation, or fast heart rate, they'll complain of that, but they would not talk about depressive symptoms. So the physician has to delineate between whether this person's physical complaints, how much of it is being influenced by the depressive state. So that's what this book is about. It's about a physical sign that takes 3 seconds to elicit, that can screen. Now, it doesn't prove the person has depression. So if you do this on your friend or your sister or brother and it's positive, it doesn't mean you've diagnosed depression. It simply is a screening tool. So if it's positive, then the person has to really go to see a professional to delineate whether indeed they do have depressive symptoms. It's just like feeling your pulse. If your pulse is abnormal, it doesn't make a diagnosis. It simply is a screening tool when you feel an abnormal pulse to go and get it fully investigated to come to a diagnosis. So in the book, I really wrote it for lay people as well as medical professionals. And so it's written in a narrative form, and the protagonist is a pretend doctor. So I didn't write it in the first person. And so this protagonist, who is the pretend doctor, he goes through the whole thing about discovering the sign and how it was done, and the scientific process which he did to compare it with this other 40-minute procedure. So it's only been released about 3 or 4 weeks ago, and I know at least about 50 or 60 people have gotten the book, and I guess they're in the process of reading it and whatnot. I sent one to Heather. I know she's read the whole thing, and so I haven't had much feedback so far. But over the years, the people I have trained to perform this sign, some nurses and some other doctors and so on, are flabbergasted by how it compares with the regular way in which it is in which depressive symptoms are screened. So they seem to be sold in it. So hopefully the book might stimulate thought in that direction. It's available on Amazon if anybody is interested. And as I said, it's written with a number of medical anecdotes. They're real things that happen in the office, but I've twisted it around a little bit so that people cannot identify themselves with it to say, oh, he's talking about me there. So I've changed those anecdotes around a good bit, but just to prove a clinical point. So that's basically what it is. Maybe Heather might comment on, since she's read it.
Sure, Heather, would you like to comment?
Right, Frank, thanks. And I go be order in mind. You know, one point you made there that in the beginning of your talk is that sometimes the happy person might be depressed.
Yes.
The person who are showing signs of happiness, you know, and it just a thought just come through my mind. You know, in Trinidad we have a saying that's called tabanca.
Mm-hmm.
And some people maintain that, you know, there's tabanca is a sweet pain. I don't even know they see the oxymoron there, but
Yes.
you know,
So
tabanca is a sweet pain.
now, if the person is susceptible to the physical disease called depression, the tabanca might be triggered. The tabanca might trigger that physical disease called depression into an actual diagnosis. But if the person is not susceptible to depressive symptoms, just like we may be susceptible to diabetes, they may have the tabanca and feel that sweet, what do you call it? Sweet
Sweet pain.
pain. So again, we come to the differentiation between the medical depression, which is a physical disease, as opposed to the English word called depression, which is a momentary sad feeling in time. So any stress can, in somebody who's susceptible to it. So let's say I have a strong family of medical depression, but I don't have depression sitting right here. But let's say something happens, a car accident, some stress, a recovery from a surgery, or as Moti puts it, a tabanka, that may trigger my medical depression to manifest itself. But if I don't have that predisposition to medical depression, I may just feel momentarily sad and move on. And then in that case, it's not a physical disease. It's not a medical problem.
Thanks.
Frank, we have in the news recently this businessman, he's quite accomplished, that committed suicide. And it was interesting to read the comments because so many people were saying, you know, you have so much money and you still went and commit suicide. And there were other people saying there must be more to this story, because how could someone who have this and so connected just take their life? So maybe they're thinking, well, that person's into something a little deeper.
Mhm.
There's more to the story. So it's interesting hearing this conversation because you never know what that person has in their history, their medical history. You don't
Yes.
know what they were suffering from. So yeah, I think it's
Yeah.
good to get people aware, because there are lots of times when kids would commit suicide and locally, and people think, you know, oh well, they just threw their life away. But if they were predisposed to it through family history,
Mhm.
that little breakup or that failing a test could have triggered something, maybe.
Exactly.
Yeah.
A very common thing we see in the office, at least here in Canada, is, for example, somebody who's been rear-ended in a car accident. In other words, the person who is rear-ended was in the right. They didn't do anything wrong. The person rear-ended them and caused them to have a whiplash injury. People who are predisposed to medical depression, that accident will trigger an actual bona fide case of major depression, the medical major depression. And we see that all the time. And it will be the cause of their symptoms, their whiplash symptoms, being prolonged for months, maybe even years, until the diagnosis of depression is made and it's been treated. And we see that with drug addicts as well. People say, well, why can't they just stop drinking the alcohol? Or why can't they just stop using cocaine or what have you? In about 80% of cases, you'd find people with addiction have an associated medical depression as well. And until that is addressed, their treatment of the addiction wouldn't be too successful.
Okay, that was very informative, Frank, and thanks and congratulations.
Thank you.
You should move along.
No,
Are
are there any other comments? Hello? Any other comments?
Let's move along.
Okay, sure. Motilal, you are up.
We said that this would be That news stories. I have a news story, but I'm slated to read it at the Bocas Lit on Saturday. I'm actually getting paid. I think it's $1,346 TT dollars for that story. So I'm not going to read it here today. Instead, I'll read one of my older stories. It's an extract from a story called The Panchayat. The Panchayat. The Panchayat heard this other matter. Now, Muthu was a mechanic, and although he did not own a car, he drove the several cars that came to his place for repairs. He was married to Duru and worked in a shed adjoining their house. Bina, who came from Mulchan Trace and was recently married to Buddies, lived next door. Buddies worked in the rice fields belonging to Berridge. When Bina was a new bride, she was not taken to work in the rice fields. Instead, she was supposed to cook and wash for the whole family. Bina used to complain that she would prefer to go in the fields than to slave for all of them. They all lived in an old carrot house with mud floors and walls. Bina was also supposed to lipe the floor and walls. A week after her wedding, Bina found out that she had to leave the room and bed that she and Buddies were sleeping in and go into a smaller room. This room belonged to her mother and father-in-law. When she saw their new room, she asked Buddies where the bed was. He explained that they would sleep on some piles and sheets spread on the floor until better could be done. A pile would consist of 4 empty rice bags sewn together to make a rough-like sheet. Bina began to cry and sent a message for her father to visit her. She was determined to return to Mulchantries. Bina's father came, and although he felt for his daughter, he did not take her back home. He believed that she was dharma bound to stay with her husband as she had promised in her marriage vows, regardless of poverty or hardship. Baris was at that time working for $18 a week, and he gave $12 to his family as he and his father were the only ones working. Bina decided then that she would start working in the lagoon. Her pay as a woman was $15 a week, $3 less than her husband. Now that she was working, her father-in-law insisted that she too contribute to the family upkeep, as now her sister-in-law had to do the household chores and cook for the entire family. Still, Bina managed to save a little every week. If planting rice was backbreaking, sleeping on the dirt floor was near torture. Bina was saving her money to buy a bed. Around this time, a branch of a department store called Kepalani's opened in Siparia. From the radio in Mutu's garage, for she could not afford one, she heard the advertisement for Springfield mattresses for $10 down and $1 per week. She dreamed about sleeping in one of those and resolved that if she could not buy a bed, no, she would at least get a mattress. One Saturday, when she did not have to work, she took $15 that she had saved and proceeded to Siparia Kepralani's. There, she paid $10 down and signed a hire purchase for $1 a week for 30 weeks. Now that she had a mattress, she realized that she had given no thought on how she would get home after buying 2 sponge pillows. She was left with $1. There was a van that said transport outside the store, but she wanted $3 to take the mattress home. She did not have that amount. She didn't know what to do. She saw Mutu, who was just driving a customer's car in front of the house. When he asked her if she was going home, she was relieved. She indicated that she had a mattress to carry, and he said that was no problem as it was a sunny day and he would tie it on top of the hood. On their way to Pinal, Mutu pulled in into the Moradam Road, saying he had to drop something for a friend. Bina became frightened as the road was lonely with no houses. When they reached the dam, Mutu stopped the car and told her since he was taking her mattress home, he had to try it out. Bina started to cry and begged him to leave her alone, but Mutu would not heed her cries. In spite of her pleadings, he had his way with her. When she arrived home, she was angry, hurt, and confused. However, that night she told her husband Baris what had happened. He wanted to fight Mutu, but Bina knew that Mutu was a bad John and would hurt Baris badly. She convinced him not to get in any fight. She also wanted to avoid a scandal. Baris loved his wife, and they both decided not to tell anyone about the incident and try and carry on with their lives. However, Mutu, in a drunken state, boasted about it in the rum shop, and thus it came to the attention of the panchayat. When they came to the panchayat, Duru, Mutu's wife, said that Bina was always flirting with her husband. Mutu argued that women were always throwing themselves at him and that Bina could have run away because, as he says, woman with dress up could run faster than man with pants down. The villagers became incensed and rushed to beat Mutu and his wife, but were restrained by Berridge and others. Since they were renting from Berridge, he ordered them to leave the village in 1 week's time. The panchayat being over, Berridge could not protect the Mutus on the road. They were both given a song kotas by the villagers. Even Boise Kaki got in the act, dealing Mutu several blows on her face with her sapat. The Mutus left the village 2 days later. Bina and Badis got a lot from Berridge to rent, and the whole village joined together to help them construct a house in Gopi trees. Later, Badis got a job with the St. Patrick County Council repairing roads, and through a loan from Barclays Bank, bought the lot. When the children came, Bina stopped working as Badis was making enough to support them. I met them last week, and 50 something years later, in their big house and new car, with their children all married and doing well, they still seem to be very much in love. Thank you.
So
Thanks, Mutual. Any comments?
just explain what a panchayat is.
Okay, Panchayat is a sort of council of elders. And in the early, in the East Indian community, they would serve to sort of hear complaints about people and
Local
make
conflict.
judgment and all that, yes.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that enough for you, Frank, or you want more?
Yeah.
Sort of council of elders. And in those days, whatever decision the panchayat make, it was binding because it was supported by the village.
Yeah, among the native Indians in North America, they'd have a council of elders that'll deal with any conflicts within the community, and it was binding. Not is it? Not was it? It is binding. Something similar.
Motilal, that story kind of reminds me a little bit of the Selvan, Brackley and the bed. How she dreaming about this mattress. So, yeah, unmute
Early
Motilal, yeah.
60s, they
Yeah.
had this Kipalanis. They had these
Yeah.
stores, and they used to advertise these things. Springfield mattresses, $10 down and $1 a week. So he's just hearing this on the radio from next door.
Well, it started to remind me of the mattresses we had in the penal house there. You know, they had striped canvas cloth, but in the inside it was hard fiber,
It was
like
fiber, yes, I
coconut
know about
fiber.
fiber. Yes,
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember that sometimes when the sun hot, you put it out in the thing
Yeah.
there, and you take a piece of a latte, a stick, and you beat the
Yeah.
fiber.
And you beat it. Yeah. Get the dust and thing
To,
out.
to,
Yeah.
to fluff it up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, Frank, that's right.
Yeah.
So
Very good
I'll
story.
just
Very good story.
yeah, as I extract from a longer story, really.
Yeah, that story always makes me sad because she was trying so hard. But
You
it's,
see, it was a kind of bad culture. You know, I remember sometimes there was just gang of fellas who they raped this girl, and the villagers say, well, they hold she down. That's how they used to call it then.
Uh-huh.
Frank, you remember that?
Yeah, yeah.
Thank God those days are gone.
any other comments? If not, Dolly, did you bring anything to read for us today? Yes?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Well, we'd
Uh,
like to
uh,
pass it along to you. And Mutila, congratulations on Bogus.
Yes,
yeah,
yes, yes.
That
Thanks.
was lovely to hear. Dolly, the floor is all
yeah.
yours.
Thank you all for giving me this opportunity again. This is a short poem. You know, sometimes we say by the grace of God and by His will. So I try to pen together a few verses with my interpretation of God's grace and God's will. The title of it is in Hindi, Hari Kripa, Hari Icha. That's all. That is all in Hindi. So, God's grace, God's will. A human birth by the grace of God, He sent me to earth here to fulfill my purpose, to prove my worth. My parents, my siblings, all my bonds by His will were chosen, and by His grace, a life in humility, simplicity, and spirituality till now is proven. He sculpted me by His will, a woman, a wife, a life giver. Through His grace, I am upright, compassionate, and an achiever. Now, in my twilight years, to His grace I surrender. In my last days, I accept His will, enraptured and tender. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any comments?
It's short enough for you to read it again. I missed a few.
I must say that some years ago, I had 2 minute strokes, which affected my speech. So I still have a little problem in saying and pronouncing some of the words. So bear with that, please. But this is why I chose this forum to give me the positivity and the vibes with you all to bring that out. So I'll read it again.
Yeah.
God's grace, God's will. A human birth by the grace of God, He sent me to earth here to fulfill my purpose, to prove my worth. My parents, my siblings, all my bonds by His will were chosen, and by His grace, a life in humility, simplicity, and spirituality till now is proven. He sculpted me by His will, a woman, a wife, a life giver. Through His grace, I am upright, compassionate, and an achiever. Now in my twilight years, to His grace I surrender. In my last days, I accept His will, enraptured and tender. That's it.
Mm.
It really means that sometimes it's by God's grace we are here, and sometimes we are here to choose and do whatever we try to do. But when it doesn't happen our way, we say it happened by God's will anyhow. So and the last verse I try to say, at my age now, there's nothing else for me to achieve, and it's just to keep my last whatever amount of years just to be in the company of the good and do what I like for myself, and especially to pay homage to God all the time. And that's why I say, in my last days, I accept His will, enraptured and tender. So when I try to say that when I hope that when my time comes, I could go peacefully. So,
Congratulations, Dolly. That was very good, and I think that you articulate very well. I heard every word
it is take a
plainly.
little effort on my part, and this is why I chose. It's not that I want any fame or anything. It is to be with among, sometimes when you're among positive people, it will give me that extra push to try to encapsulate what you all are doing, and especially like how you all are bringing this local, all those local thing. I like you, Moti, with all those Indian background things that happened so long ago, and with forget your name, the with all those Laja Bless and those folklore stories. But
Heather.
this year, Heather, and you, Frank, today I was so amazed to hear that we could hear that put it into poetry and prose, that medical side as well, we could,
Yes,
it's so enlightening for me. I don't really come
it's
out to say much because I have a little, still have a little hindrance in voicing my thoughts. I feel as
don't
always
worry,
feel
man.
I'm not articulate enough, you know. But
Don't worry.
I
You would
I'm
have a
happy
lot
to
of
be here.
practice. You'd have a lot of practice at poetry and
I am
prose.
very happy to be here
And
to tell you the truth.
you know that I suppose some of us must have seen your the videos that we had at the Eid celebration in the library where you did Jan Muir's poem, and
Yes,
that was done. That was excellent. So you're doing well, and we
yeah.
love
Well,
to have
thanks.
you here.
Yeah,
Thanks.
thanks very much, Mr. Moti, for encouraging me to keep on.
You
Yeah.
know, Dolly, I find that Poetry and Prose is a very supportive group, and we are all producing still, and we are all of your age as well. And we have all had our own medical issues as well. But
Mm-hmm.
I want to comment too on that piece of artwork behind you. Have you done
Mm.
that yourself?
Yes, yes.
Excellent,
I
excellent,
have a, I
excellent.
have I have a lot of pieces, and they're so detailed that it is not of the best because when you see so much artistic work out there, but I try because I want to keep my, if ever I should make a publication, which I'm not pushing, I want to do a book with poetry on one side and art on one side, one page.
Ah,
Yeah.
And I really think you should do that because Kamta Prasad, who is also part of our group, he's a photographer, but he also is a poet. And he
Mhm.
just published a book with the poetry and the photography.
Mhm.
So, you can find people who will help you to put the book together. And I think
Yeah.
that's an excellent
Oh,
idea.
Well, right now I
Uh,
don't have too much done as yet. I probably only have about eight of thereabouts, but I'm still working on it. So every week I try
well,
to do at least one, or
Yeah.
the thoughts, or put down something on paper, so that probably by the end of the year I might have a good amount. But it's the art, because the art will take a lot more time to do,
Mm-hmm.
well,
and I want to do it
okay.
myself because I want to get it as original as possible, because I want to get an art with a little theme to the poetry I want to project. if you know what I mean. So if it's like a something about the Lord, it must be a little picture of something, and it must be done by me. If you know, not not in any egoistic sort of way, but if it is something that I want to publish as an original source, I feel I should only do it like that. I don't want to go to look for a photo of it. I want to be able to do it since I have the ability to do it. So.
All right. So as soon as we have enough, we could arrange a display at the library, at the DB library. That could
Well,
be
yes,
arranged.
yeah.
Okay.
That would
They're
be
not
nice.
they're not very big, but they I for my age and my eyesight, these detailed work just take a lot,
Okay.
but it's something I love to do, so it don't be any hard work for me.
Okay then.
Yeah, the words that you use really projected the message on your
Mm,
poem. So I enjoy that.
thank you.
Last time there was a word for that. That circular
Mandala,
mandala. Yes, yes,
yeah,
yes.
mandala.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, Gashaya,
June, do you have anything to read for today?
we have June here.
Yeah, June's here. June, you're muted though.
No, I haven't got anything to read.
All righty, no problem. Love having you.
Mhm.
I will be the last reader for the day,
Mhm.
and my first piece. Where'd it go? Hold on. Okay, here we go. Knew I had it up. My first piece was kind of weird because I think I want to make it into a book, but it came to me like this, that I don't think this will be its final form. My library had a mites problem. When complaints were made, emails were sent. Don't put food in the bins. We were encouraging them by making the place attractive to them. The problem continued. Someone noticed the mice got into their lunch. Eventually, another email was sent. Don't eat in the building. So everyone started going out for lunch. The mice, still there, attacking the books. Complaints were made. Another email was received. Those books were old and they had to be removed. So the mice did us a favor. Why did we still have them? We needed to look at ourselves and throw out old books. So we started removing books from the library. The problem continued. The mice became more visible. Patrons complained. Well, the building was deemed too old, and we were told that the library would be moving to a new building. Leave this old building to the mice. The email said we would have a nice new building. On the second day, at the new building, we saw mouse droppings. We complained. They responded, do you want us to call exterminators for just one little mouse? Don't put food in the trash basket. The end.
Well, that's a full circle story there, Gershia.
I love it. I love it. As far as I know, the DB library is the only library where we, after our programs, we sit down and eat.
That's so true because other libraries are very, very strict. No
Yes,
food.
but I don't know. They just allow us to do what we want in DB. But
It's savvy food. That's why, Motilal, it's savvy food.
another thing too, that you mentioned there, and it struck me that I have a lot of these old books, right? That whenever I used to travel, I always go to the secondhand bookstores. So I have copies of Shakespeare work. poetry, English literature dating, books dating till all the 18 something and 19 something. And I always say that, when I die, all that going in the black bag and out in the garbage.
I
So
hope
just a
not.
thought.
But even the libraries now are on a push to,
Yes, but no,
become more
the library to donate books to the library is a long process, and they
yeah,
don't know old books.
no, they
Anyway,
don't.
let me move along.
You know what, Mutila, there are a couple used booksellers in Trinidad. So if you know them, you could probably leave it for them to pick up. So it doesn't go in the trash. It will go to them and then they can just resell it.
All right, thanks. Okay, let me move along because um,
I have a couple more. They're short pieces.
yeah, I hope they're as enjoyable as this first one.
Um, this one is called The Invisible Maxi Conductor.
Oh,
What makes a man at 6:20 a.m. in the morning jump in a maxi and play conductor? Is he craving validation? Opening the door, closing the door, his self-appointed position. Is there a free ride in play? Drive two more. This is the level of hustle culture I've yet to discover. Shagonas, Shagonas, we exit at busy corner. He pays, walks off. Backpack slung on his shoulder. Not even a thank you received, an everyday passenger. Was this his morning ritual? His community service? Does he do this during every maxi ride? Is the indivisible maxi conductor a secret society? A special brotherhood passed on from father to son? The Knights Templar of Short Drop, the Green Band Division. And that's it, yeah. I don't think I read that quite well, but
oh Lord. Um,
any
it's very,
comments?
very. I liked it. I like it. Very good. Oh Lord, girl, you're really capturing the how to put it, the feelings there, man. Uh, I don't know anybody could have done it better. Gusha,
Gersha, there was a
congratulations,
fella
busy
who used
boss.
to stand up by library corner and pretend he playing trumpet or something. Did you know
No,
about that,
no,
Motila?
No,
no,
I know
he,
the
no,
gentleman that plays the violin,
Or
but
no.
he
whatever, some
Gusha,
instrument.
plays the
Yeah.
violin.
Gusha, the guy who used to play the trumpet at the
Mm-hmm.
San Fernando Library wasn't pretending. He was very good.
Well,
He
was it
was
Yeah,
a real
very good.
trumpet or he was just pretending?
Actually, yes. No. Frank probably would know about this. But they say the man get a horn, and with that he left his family and all that, and he became a street dweller, and he
you're
had his
kidding.
trumpet, and all through
Frank,
my
that's a
school,
good fella. You're gonna do your little cervical, a little test on.
Well,
all
isn't the
during my
trumpet referred to
during
as a
my
horn?
school days. I trying to remember his name, but during my all my school days in San Fernando, he used to be by the library. I'm trying to remember his name now, but he was an excellent musician.
Mhm.
But Gersha, your conductor remind me of that, because Trinidad makes allowances for all these people with little oddities.
Well,
Yeah,
Gusha, I think that comes straight out of Naipaul, girl,
Yeah, yeah.
straight out of Miguel Street.
and so my last piece is called Squeeze. It's another maxi piece. Twist your legs sideways. Sneakers lay on ankle breaking side. Arm sucking face with dirty window. Amazonian woman arm pressed the other, pleading, move over, saying a silent prayer. Legs don't cramp. Willing feet not to fall asleep. Ponder if I would walk crooked after my release. Looking at the ruffled cornrows ahead. Oh, I should have put ramfled. Looking at the I don't know if it's ruffled or ramfled. Looking at the ramfled cornrows ahead. Navigate real life bumper cars. Cursing his greed for adding seats. Encroached on leg space. Who go say if I take one more foot? Beep beep. Who go vex if I make $1 more? Beep beep. Pack them in. Beep beep. Look for a little extra. Take squeeze on the way home. That's my pieces. Any comments?
Yeah,
And
that's
you could
Well,
tell me if it's rumple or ramfled. Ruffled or rample? I don't know if
Well,
rample is a made up Trini word or not.
well,
rumful.
it all depends, if you're talking as the New Yorker or you're talking as the Trinidadian.
Mhm.
Gersha, when you say move over, long ago we used to say dress down.
Dress up, dress down,
Dress
yes.
up or dress down, yeah, whatever. Yeah.
Well, dress down meant what? Move over?
Move
Move
over.
along, just move, not move over, but go nearer, go closer. There used to
Oh,
be this
I used to say
woman,
it as dress aside. Dress aside.
Or dress wrong.
Yes.
You dress
Yeah.
dress wrong.
aside.
Dress
Yeah.
strong. Yeah, dress strong too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This actually it should be dress wrong
Dress
because
Yeah.
wrong. Yeah.
there was this lady in Debe. She used to work taxi when we used to go to school, and the taxi was usually licensed for 5 people. But sometimes she used to bring as many as 9 or 10 because small school boys. And she used to say, dress wrong, man. We could take one more, dress wrong. I had to write a story about
wicked.
her now. We used to call her, I don't know if Heather, you could remember, we used to call her Dotty Dan Dan
Yes, yeah.
because her clothes used to be always a little dirty up with the taxi work. And she was one of the only taxi drivers in Pinal. She had a console like what I have.
Well, there's
So
two ways to look at that because you can write that in different ways. You could write it as the woman feel as if she have to do Noah's Ark to get all of the young boys to school on time. Or you could write it as the greedy taxi driver. So
yeah, but she was quite a character,
you should write
I
about
was,
it.
yes. I knew her personally because
Mhm.
I think she was from DB. Okay.
That's nice. All right. Well,
But
Frank,
Gusha,
we have to do an author of the month for you to celebrate your new book.
Oh, okay.
well, we have
Mhm.
two, and Gusha, what about your book in the making?
Okay, so I have a book out, but I'm still working on the cover. So there's a um, soft launch on Amazon. So if you look up my name, Gersha Mahabia, it's called Manhole Busy Blooming. The Kindle version is out. So if you want to take a sneak peek, but I'm working on the cover. Hopefully the cover will be out by the end of the month and I can actually, bring it to you guys and um launch it. I don't know if I'm gonna have a launch or whatever, but
Work on
officially
that.
put it out there um in May. That's my aim because that's my
Okay.
birthday month. So that's the
Okay.
aim.
All right, and Gusha, well, we have the Indian Arrival Day celebration coming up at the DB Library on the 23rd, 10 o'clock. And this time I having my expert Zoom person there, Gusha coming down, so
Yes.
that those on Zoom would be able to join. But we should have a bumper program on the 23rd of May.
Yes. So Indian arrival. We will be there hopefully with everyone to celebrate. I'm sorry I couldn't go get see the play today, but
Yes, I go
sure.
later.
Yeah, I'm sure the
Uh,
talent will show, and as it's already showing with Cynthia's family and stuff. So I'm looking forward to reading the reviews and posting it. All right. Well, that's it. I
Okay.
think we're going to close off a bit early, Frank.
Yes. Thanks.
All right. If there are no other burning desires to share, I'm going to go ahead and close the room for today.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
Okay.
Rama.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
See you in 2
We had a
weeks.
nice meeting. Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks.